Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Packers Unscripted from Packers.com. I am Mike Spofford, joined, as always, by my trusted colleague, Wes Hodkiewicz. We're coming to you here from our studios at Lambeau Field. Both of us a bit under the weather, I'm afraid to say, so please pardon our voices. We're both trying to get through the show with cough drops in our mouth.
Yes, we're out of sick days.
Yeah, we are out of sick days, and we both caught something over in Detroit. But other than that, it was a pretty good trip to Detroit for the Packers, Wes, as Green Bay emerges with a 31-24 Thanksgiving Day victory over the Lions. And when you start the discussion of this game, quite simply, it comes down to fourth down.
It does. I mean, unbelievable. I've never seen anything quite like this in terms of the Green Bay Packers had 4 fourth downs. It's not like they just had they kept going for it. All of them were extremely consequential to not only winning this game, but really setting the tone, I felt like, for it, right? I mean, when you face the Detroit Lions, you're going to face an ultra-aggressive offense that every single down you have to be prepared that they're going to be going for it, right? No matter where you are on the field.
Right.
And to the credit of Matt LaFleur, because, again, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You're either the smartest person in the room or everybody's questioning you. LaFleur stood by his convictions. And at numerous times during that game, particularly in 4th and goal, 4th down inside the red zone, he put his foot firmly on the gas. He trusted Jordan Love to make the throws. He trusted the Packers receivers to come through for him. So it shouldn't have been any surprise whatsoever that when the game is on the line late, the Packers first throw it on 3rd down, and then they go up to the line of scrimmage and call timeout after letting the clock run down. You and I don't know what you thought. I can tell you what I thought because I told you this. I'm like, okay, well, this makes sense. You call the timeout. Now you go back up to the line of scrimmage. You try to draw them off sides, and if not, you take the delay of game and you let Daniel Whelan punt it.
That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I thought because they come back out after the timeout, and it's like, okay, you can't call timeout again. You can't call back-to-back timeouts without running a play, so calling another timeout was not an option. I thought, okay, now they're really going to try to convince the Lions that they're running a play here.
Yep.
They're going to try to draw them off sides, and if you lose 5 yards on a delay game at that spot in the field, not a big deal. And Whelan comes out and punts, and I think at the moment the snap occurred, you and I are sitting next to each other in the press box, and I think in unison we both said, "Holy cow!" Except we didn't say "cow."
Yep.
I mean,
they snapped it.
They snapped the ball. It was like, my goodness. And but Dontayvion Wicks caps probably the best game of his career in his 3-year career so far in Green Bay. He caps it with the leaping catch, one shoe left on the field and all, to convert the 4th down that allows the Packers to run out the clock. It's really interesting, especially in such juxtaposition to the last trip to Detroit, which was last year on the Thursday night after Thanksgiving, when the Lions got a pair of touchdowns on 4th downs. And then at the end of the game, they're in field goal range to take the lead. But then Dan Campbell says, we're going to go for it on 4th down to get a 1st down, to run the clock all the way down, and then kick the walk-off field goal for the win. And that's how the Lions ended up winning that one. The Packers end up running the clock out this time on the 4th down. But hats off to Dontayvion Wicks. This young man has been through a lot over the last season and a half. And he really stepped up big on a national stage.
What is so incredible is we're talking to him in the locker room afterwards, and you've been around him enough. I think fans, if you've watched his interviews enough, they have so many of these guys, right? They're just the same person over and over and over again. Dontayvion Wicks, and he had some drops last year. The way he handles himself, the way he speaks, the way he talks, it's the same cadence. No different mannerisms, no different facial expressions. He's just so steadfast in his convictions that he's going to be able to make these plays. And he said when he stepped to the line of scrimmage with where he was, he had a pretty good feeling that the ball was going to be coming to him because he was going to be the first guy coming across Jordan Love's face. He got that step on Brian Branch. Love, the other hero of this play, even though the Packers were trying to maybe catch Detroit off guard, they end up getting a really good push up the middle. Love has to make a throw off his back foot, and throws it a little bit high, but gets it in the vicinity of where Wicks is, and Wicks plucks the thing.
Yeah.
To be able to come down with it in that instance, I think it just showed the growth and maturation of a player, because very easily, I mean, that is a strong hands catch with a player bearing down on you. And I don't want to go blow for blow with the entire game with how it played out, but you talk about this being the best game of his career. It's not just in the numbers, it's just in the visuals, right? Mm-hmm. The 22-yard touchdown, which also was on a 4th down. He's dragging his feet in the corner of the end zone. He's in really good coverage, and he's making a play in which if he bobbles that ball at all, it's going to be ruled an incompletion.
Right, and a turnover on downs.
Yep. But to me, the most impressive catch of the entire game was the 30-yarder on the seam, where he has Thomas Harper darting in at him from the safety position, and he's fearless. Jordan Love puts a tremendous ball on him, and he catches that pass, and it sets up yet another scoring drive. The Packers don't have Tucker Kraft right now. The running game, when you look at Josh Jacobs, he was banged up in this game going in. He ended up in the medical tent for a time. He came back to the game. This was a matchup where the Packers had to rely on their receivers. And boy, golly, did Dontayvion Wicks come up in a big way.
Yeah, and you just saw, and I kept leaning over to you in the press box and saying it over and over again throughout the course of the game. You could see not only the trust that Jordan Love has in his receivers, but when Jordan Love got up to the line of scrimmage and saw single coverage on the outside by the Lions, he was determined to make the Lions pay for saying, we're going to guard your receivers one-on-one. And yeah, not every ball was a completion, but the number of times that Love just attacked with those boundary throws against one-on-one coverage, and of course the biggest one in terms of yardage was the 51-yard touchdown to Christian Watson down the field, which occurred right after the defense gets the 4th down stop right near midfield. It was actually both a 3rd and short and a 4th and short stop in holding up Jahmyr Gibbs there at the line of scrimmage. And then the Packers respond to that 4th down stop offensively. The second play of the series, you go deep to Christian Watson. He catches the touchdown. The Packers are up by 10 points. They had a 10-point lead a couple times in the first half. The Lions answered, got the touchdown right before halftime. And it was frustrating in a sense because as much as the Packers were really in control of the game in the first half, they went into halftime only ahead 17-14, and the Lions were getting the ball coming out to start the second half. You're looking at, if you give up any points there, all the work that you've done in the first half feels like it would have gone for naught. They get the 4th down stop. Love hits Watson over the top for the 51-yard touchdown. They're back up by 10. And this is how I look at games a lot of times, Wes. At the end of the day, when that game ended, the 4th down stop on the opening drive of the second half was the last time the Lions had the ball only down by 1 score.
Right.
Because the Packers rebuilt the 10-point lead, and then every time the Lions scored, the Packers either scored to get back to a multi-score lead, or on the final possession, they ran out the clock. That's how you beat a team. You don't give them the football when they're only down by 1 score and they have a chance to catch you or jump in front of you. And the way it played out for Green Bay was almost textbook in that fashion.
The other thing that is just mind-boggling to me, and I'm sure you want to talk about this, so I don't want to jump too far ahead on the script of the unscripted show here, is the fact that when you look at every big play that's been happening in the second half, Micah Parsons is always a part of it, it feels like.
Yep.
That first stop coming out of halftime, it wasn't a sack, but it was a combined TFL with Isaiah McDuffie on 4th down that gets Green Bay the ball back. And Michael, what's the best way to swing momentum, right? Even though you could conceivably say it was still in Green Bay's favor having the lead, but it was in their sails for good when you get that ball back. And 2 plays later, Jordan Love is hitting a home run to your biggest home run threat in Christian Watson. I give the Lions fans a lot of credit. I don't want this to come off as a dig because I think any fan base would struggle with this. But how that place went from deafening levels of noise. They're coming off halftime with Jack White and Eminem, and people are all geared up, and hey, maybe you're going to come back out in the lead. I literally could have shouted from the press box, the open-air press box, and the entire place would have heard me. It got that quiet.
Yeah.
Not only at that interval, but at the end of the game. You think about the Dontayvion Wicks touchdown, it got really quiet. it was almost like Lions fans were just shocked at what they were seeing. And if you're a road team, that's what you have to do. So to tie this all together, and Matt LaFleur kind of talked about this on Monday when it was like, when you have a guy like Micah Parsons available, it allows you to be a little bit more aggressive. Maybe now on that fourth down where they throw the ball to Dontayvion Wicks on 4th and 3, maybe that isn't as much of a risk in your mind because well, at the very least, we have a 7-point lead and Micah Parsons on the other side of the ball. It's just been brilliant watching this come together. So we talk about complete performances. I personally felt, yes, in all 3 phases, very complete performance. But when you tie in the coaching aspect, the game planning aspect, man, the Packers, I don't know if it was a perfect game, but it was darn near a shutout with how they were able to play this thing against Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the biggest win of the season to date, and the Packers have some more big games coming up, obviously. And from an individual perspective, I mean, you have Jordan Love put up a 125 passer rating, Dontayvion Wicks 6 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, the first 2-touchdown game of his career. And then your big star on defense, Micah Parsons. He's not only in on the 4th and 1 stop on Jahmyr Gibbs, but he records 2.5 sacks. He makes history, becoming the first player in NFL history to have at least a dozen sacks in each of the first 5 seasons of his career, which is really saying something. He's now got 8.5 career sacks on Thanksgiving, after having 6 on Thanksgiving with the Cowboys in 4 games, which ties the Thanksgiving record for since the whole 1982 when sacks became official thing. But again, we saw the finisher that Micah Parsons is, because you're at 3 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. The Lions are in the red zone. They are down by 10, partly because their previous time down there, they decided to go for it again on 4th down. Instead of kick the field goal to get within 7, they decided to go for it on 4th and short. And Jameson Williams, who had a tremendous game, 7 for $144 and a touchdown. But Jameson Williams drops the 4th down pass that would have kept that drive alive for the Lions. So the next time they're down there, they're in the red zone again, and on 3rd down, Micah Parsons, kind of a stunt type of thing where he ends up rushing up the middle, and Jared Goff thought he had time to make the throw, and then suddenly Micah Parsons was in his face and Goff was on his back, and the lost yardage from that sack then forced the Lions to kick a field goal, so they were down by 7. I think that even played into, in a lot of ways, how that next possession for the Packers went, because if the Lions get a touchdown there as opposed to a field goal and they're only down 3 as opposed to down 7, how do the decisions change and how does it play out? So Parsons with a big time play late in the 4th quarter in the red zone again, and it has a huge impact on the football game.
This guy, man, it is. I can't envision it having gone any better than what it's been for the Green Bay Packers, making a trade of that significance on the eve of the season, without any history in this defense. Obviously, some parallels, as he said, between what the Dallas did with Mike Zimmer and what Jeff Hafley wants to do. But still, the guy came in quarter to midnight on the NFL season and has played just exceptionally wonderful football. In addition to the fact that, for all this consternation about how he defends the run, I mean, what he has done, being able to set an edge and being able to just play in different capacities, the motor that he shows when he's pursuing the quarterback, it applies to every down that he plays. And it feels like as that him and Jeff Hafley have worked through the season, they've developed a rapport that has enabled him to become even more dangerous, right? Whether it's been some of the inside concepts, whether it's been on some of the extreme stunts that he's been running. And Mike, I'll tell you what, man, the guy could play 15 years in the NFL. I got a feeling that sack he had of Goff against Taylor Decker is going to be one that's going to stay on his highlight reel for a very long time.
The one around the blind side?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of those prototypical, the quarterback is barely in his drop, and Micah Parsons is already on him. Taylor Decker, dealing with some injuries, but one of the best left tackles in the game. Certainly one of the most longest tenured. They try to match up Parsons one-on-one, and you see how perilous that can be.
Yeah.
And as you had mentioned, him walking away with history from this game, the guy makes everybody better on defense. There's a swagger that I feel like is engulfed in this thing now too. As the official the fan vote for the Pro Bowl has been out now 5 days in, he has the third most votes. He's leading all defensive ends. Packer fans, there's number 1 jerseys everywhere in Green Bay. This guy's a superstar.
Yeah, he is. He absolutely is a superstar. Well, there was one piece of bad news, other than you and I both getting sick, that came back from Detroit, and that is that, unfortunately, and it actually happened on the 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter sack by Micah Parsons. On that play, Devonte Wyatt went down with what has turned out to be a season-ending ankle injury, and it's a big loss for the Packers because Wyatt was on pace to set a career high in sacks. He had 4 in 10 games. His career high, I believe, was 5.5. A really disruptive player, both against the run and as an interior pass rusher. And the Packers now defensively have to move on without him. Now they have the depth from the number of bodies standpoint. You've got a guy like Carl Brooks, who hopefully will be back from his ankle injury soon. You have 2 rookies who can sort of job share in a way, because Nazir Stackhouse is kind of the run stuffer in the middle. Warren Brinson, his Georgia teammate, is more of a help on the interior pass rush. So they can trade off duties there in some respects, but Wyatt's going to be tough to replace, and this is a big loss for Green Bay's defense.
Yeah, and I want to just say a credit to Devonte Wyatt. He was already banged up when he went back into the game. He actually left. I don't know what the injury was. He got kind of banged up, helped off, went to the medical tent, went back with the defensive line. I think it was the second series that he had returned. Then, unfortunately, that happened. So he was already toughing it out to be out there for this group. I said it from day one when the Packers made this trade for Parsons that they don't make that trade and don't part ways with Kenny Clark if they didn't feel good about where number 95 was at now in his 4th NFL season. And when he was healthy, he was a huge impact player. I mean, I wrote this in Insider Inbox, but he was 3rd on the defense in both quarterback hits and sacks, despite the fact he'd missed, 3 games total, in addition to some of the other playing time issues and related to being beat up. Devonte Wyatt is on the precipice here of becoming a really complete defensive lineman, an interior defensive lineman, and a playmaker for this defense. All that being said, the Packers still have a lot of depth there. The young guns that they have in Wooden and Brooks now step firmly into the spotlight. We'll have to see exactly what can happen here with the interior pass rush. Certainly Brinson's going to factor into that. Baron Sorrell has been playing a little bit of 3-tech and nickel. Lucas Van Ness appears to still be a little bit away here.
Yeah.
He was in the locker room on Monday. Rob Domofsky from ESPN.com had spoken to him and said he's basically back. I don't want to say back to square one, but he's in the rehab process again, hoping to get back here at some point. We did learn, based on the NFL transaction wire on Monday, that Brenton Cox Jr.'s return to practice window opened on Monday. So maybe he could factor into this, but it's going to take all hands on deck here down the stretch to replace a player like Devonte Wyatt. He does too many things well, in addition to being a factor in that 3rd down pass rush. And that will be, just like Tucker Kraft on the offensive side of the ball, something that I think everybody on the defense is going to have to take upon their shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly with a big game and a tough opponent in the Chicago Bears coming to Lambeau Field, I do want to talk about where things stand in the NFC North, but we'll pay some bills first and hear a word from our sponsors. SiriusXM NFL Radio delivers hard-hitting analysis and up-to-the-minute NFL news that true football fanatics need 24/7, 365. At Cousin Subs, we have something for everyone, like our Wisconsin cheese curds, mac and cheese, golden fries, and creamy shakes, all paired with your favorite sub or sub in a bowl. Cousin Subs, 50-plus years of better. Pit Boss Grills, the official grill of Packers tailgating at Lambeau or at your house. Take your game day to the next level with a Pit Boss wood pellet grill. Pit Boss Grills available at Menards. Hey Packers fans, we always knew Lambeau Field was a wonder, but now it's official. Learn more about all the wonders of Wisconsin at travelwisconsin.com/wonders. Welcome back to Packers Unscripted. Wes, the NFC North, the Chicago Bears are sitting on top of the division at 9-3. They have now won 9 of their last 10 games since an 0-2 start to the Ben Johnson era. The Packers right on their heels at 8-3-1. The Detroit Lions fall to third place at 7-5 in the division. And the Bears are coming in. We'll talk a lot more about Chicago and previewing that matchup at Lambeau Field this week on our next show. But man, the way things are shaping up in the NFC, you had the Carolina Panthers pull an upset and knock off the Los Angeles Rams. The Bears beating the Philadelphia Eagles. So Thanksgiving weekend is in the books in the NFL, and there is not a single team in the NFC with 10 wins. But there are 10 teams in the NFC that are above 500 with basically 5 games left to go. I mean, it's if you haven't buckled up yet, like now is the time. I mean, this is going to get wild.
Yeah, it will be. And I'm just going to say this. You can disagree with me. I don't know how you feel about it. I feel like other than Cleveland, I don't think any of the Packers' non-wins, I think they all held up. I mean, when you look at the way Dallas has played this, they played inspired football, man.
Dallas has the number 1 offense in the league right now. They are the team. They are the team that nobody can stop.
And credit to George Pickens, man, because for as beleaguered and as much of his name had been dragged through the mud. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. Dragged through the mud in Pittsburgh. This guy, in addition to being what appears to be a good Samaritan so far in Dallas, has been unbelievable in partnership with Dak Prescott.
And CeeDee Lamb.
And CeeDee Lamb is just CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
The Carolina Panthers are the friskiest team of all. If this team finds its way in the playoffs, because Tampa is falling off right now, if the Carolina Panthers find themselves in the playoffs, they're going to be kind of like the Packers 2 years ago. Nobody's going to want to play them.
Yeah, no, you're not going to want to play them.
You could be a 2 seed. They're going to give everybody fits. Now, they could come up empty, but they also, I mean, the way that they have risen to the occasion, Bryce Young has been all over the board in terms of his performance, but the guy, when he's on, is on. And then, obviously, I don't think you can count out the Detroit Lions either. So this race in the NFC is going to be one to watch. We'll preview the Bears on Thursday. I watched 98% of that game against Philly. I was not impressed by what I saw from Philly, but the Bears did what the Bears do.
Yeah.
And I thought defensively they actually held up a little bit better than they have. They certainly still took the ball away. But there's so many weird anomalies with this team, Mike. When they're 9-3, they're +6 in points scored. Like they have their takeaway turnover margin is higher than their points for and points against. But they find ways to win, and they've been building momentum as the season wears on. So, so many things to go over yet with that matchup. But this Sunday at Lambeau Field, man, it's hard to think of a game against the Bears that's been played at Lambeau Field that is more consequential that I can remember in my time on the beat. There's been some big ones in Soldier Field.
Yeah.
But at Lambeau, I don't know. This might be up there.
Yeah, I was actually going through some of the history, and it's interesting because if you go back to, and I may write about this later in the week that I've done some research. If you go back to the 2010 NFC Championship, which was obviously played at Soldier Field, so there's been roughly 15 years since then. I only came up with 2 games in the Packers-Bears rivalry where there was a lot on the line for both teams. Yeah. You know, there have been games where, you know, I mean, the Bears clinched the NFC North title in 2018 against the Packers.
Yep.
The Packers clinched the number 1 seed in the playoffs in 2020 at Chicago against the Bears. So there are games like that where there's been a lot on the line for one team, but not so much the other. But there was a game in 2012 where the Packers and Bears had records similar to what they have now, kind of a late November, I think it was, game. And then obviously the regular season finale in 2013, which was winner take all. The winner goes to the playoffs, the loser goes home, and the 4th and 8 and all that. But other than those 2 games since the NFC Championship, there haven't been Packers-Bears games with with a lot at stake for both squads. And I think that, it takes the combination of that and the fact that the Bears broke their losing streak to the Packers in the regular season finale last year when the Packers were being cautious with Jordan Love because of the playoffs coming up. Yep. when he injured his hand and all of that. The Bears broke that losing streak, and now all of a sudden we're going to have this highly consequential game for both squads. And then, they're going to play each other again 13 days later in Chicago. So this whole the stretch run is here, but the stretch run is just getting started.
So check this out too, because again, Wes Hawk was fun with numbers here. If you look at net touchdowns, okay, the last 3 years for the number 1 seed in the NFC, San Francisco was plus 30 in 2023. In 2024, the Detroit Lions were plus 33. As it stands right now, the number 1 seeded Chicago Bears, minus 3 in net touchdowns.
In touchdowns.
Like, I have so much respect for what Ben Johnson's accomplished because it's been so atypical. And I'm curious to see, independent of this game on Sunday, what the Bears do down the stretch here, because it's all to play for. Yeah. They could win 14 games this season if they really take this thing all the way to the playoffs.
Right.
But just seeing how they manifest this is going to be fascinating. I will say this. Again, we'll preview it on Thursday. But being able to develop a two-headed monster in the backfield, that has been the best friend of Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams has a lot of good traits that you look for in a quarterback, but he's not turned into the 350-yard passer, dominate the opposition. He needs help so far in his career, and he's getting that, in addition to the fact that he's just been Harry Houdini in the pocket, guys being unable to take him to the ground. And defensively, we have not seen a unit take the ball away at this clip like what Dennis Allen's group has done this season.
Right.
So, it's going to be great theater. But the fact that the Rams got tripped up by the Panthers, the Eagles got tripped up by the Bears, that there are all these 8 and 9 win teams right now. Like the Packers sit in the 6th seed and with a win on Sunday could catapult themselves right to the top of this thing. It shows you the amount of parity, but also the top heaviness of this NFC. And the stakes for Green Bay are going to be astronomically high from one week to the next. There are no real gimmies here. Obviously, Minnesota, it was not inspiring what we saw against Seattle on Sunday. But this next 14 days, that's whole stretch, it doesn't get much more exciting.
Yeah, it's really going to be something. We've got a lot more that we will discuss with regard to the Bears and break them down offensively, defensively, all of that on our next show. But for now, we're going to call it a wrap on this edition of Packers Unscripted. Be sure to follow all of our coverage of the team on Packers.com. For Wes, I am Mike. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you next time.